July. Nobody likes English people. First off, I feel I should issue a warning. This video may contain footage of sport. The last couple of videos I made also contained footage of sport, and they were blocked on Facebook for that reason. Now, although I primarily make these videos for YouTube, I normally upload them to a Facebook page for the channel as well, in spite of me thinking that Facebook is dumb, and them blocking my videos in return. So if you're watching this on YouTube whilst angrily writing comments and disagreeing with everything, thank you for watching. You're a wonderful person, and I hope you have a lovely day. If this video somehow dodges being blocked on Facebook, and you're on Facebook watching this, I don't care about you, and Facebook is stupid. Anyway, I'd rather be talking about things that are more fun. It's summertime. I should be talking about the summer holidays. Someone I know went camping in the Scottish Highlands. Jealous. I have a relative that went to Cornwall, which I'm sure was lovely. Tom Cruise came over to the UK, but he only wanted to go to sports events. He was at the Wimbledon final, as seen here, sat next to Hayley Atwell. Then the same weekend he went to the final for Euro 2020. He was less happy there because he had to sit in front of David Beckham and Kate Moss, and they wouldn't stop messing about talking and kicking his seat all the way through. After that he went to the British Grand Prix, where he hoped that Lewis Hamilton would rather compete in rock, paper, scissors than motorsport. Actually, I think Tom Cruise was over here making a film, and then he got into trouble because he'd pulled a sickie, and then they saw him all over the news playing out. And Jeff Bezos went on his summer holiday to space. It must be good there because Richard Branson went there as well. I think Richard Branson realised that one of the good things about it is that there aren't any police cars driving about, so you can take your seatbelt off and not have to worry about getting caught, which he took full advantage of. But the driver of the car still told him to sit down and stop mucking about.
And please return to your seats and strap in. Approach and re-entry.
So not that different from any other holiday really. Jeff Bezos had to invent an app to automatically fire slow delivery drivers for getting stuck in traffic so that he could fund that trip. Because going to space is expensive, and Jeff Bezos isn't made of money. My mate used to work for Amazon, and he had to clock out if he wanted to go to the toilet, so that the company knew how much to dock his pay by. Don't worry though, Jeff Bezos did say thank you to all of his staff after his trip, so he's not a monster or anything. If I had one of those rockets, I'd probably just go to Blackpool. It's cheaper. Meanwhile, the first half of July where I live was wet and rainy. I had a good complaint about it, because I still wasn't allowed inside the post office if there were already 2 customers inside, social distancing. And my postcards to loose women containing the answers to their Thundercats quiz were getting soggy. But then that rain moved south, where it also picked up, and ended up flooding parts of Germany and destroying homes and small businesses. In some cases, the flooding occurred so quickly that more than 160 people lost their lives. Many of the locals that were affected have complained about a lack of support from the government and emergency services. Then insurance companies decided that they don't cover water damage costs anymore because it's a bit expensive, and they'd already chosen a venue for their staff Christmas party. July the 1st is Canada Day. Apologies for not covering events in chronological order this month. As these reports tend to be bleak and negative, I have to point out that Canada Day this year was taken over by a massive heat wave.
In sweltering temperatures, help for the homeless in Edmonton, Alberta.
There's going to be a lot of people going to be ending up in the hospital and being really, really sick from this because some of them don't know how to look after themselves.
Reports say that in some areas the temperature almost reached 50 degrees. 50 degrees Fahrenheit, that's not that warm. It was 50 degrees Fahrenheit here around the end of February and I still had a jacket on. What's that? 50 Celsius. 50 degrees Celsius, 121 Fahrenheit. The heat was so bad that people were dying.
Police in Vancouver have responded to more than 130 sudden deaths since Friday. Heat is thought to have been a contributing factor in most cases.
If you lived in Canada and managed to survive, I can console you by reminding that now it's August, which is when winter begins in Canada. It's probably already covered in a calm blanket of snow. Thankfully, that's the only national holiday I have to talk about this month. July the 4th is American Independence Day. I don't know too much about that, because in English schools they don't teach you very much about American Independence Day for some reason. But other sources have taught me that it's a celebration of the people victoriously winning their freedom from oppressive forces from distant foreign territories, despite being outnumbered and less well equipped to defend themselves. Someone said that American Independence Day was really a day on which everyone celebrates not being English, which is just what everyone else over in Europe was doing as the European Cup continued. As an English person, and along with many others, it was exciting to see England get to play in the final against Italy, unless you had to sit in front of delinquents. England's silly mascot even showed up, the bloke in a terrifying scarecrow costume. In the end, it was Italy that won the tournament, which is disappointing because Italy are always winning, but also not surprising because I did say in last month's video that the Euros is just like the Eurovision Song Contest, only with football instead of songs. And the Euros is just like Eurovision, only with football instead of songs. So it only makes sense that Italy would win that too. I did take some comfort though in the fact that Argentina won the Copa America tournament, which goes on in South America at the same time as the Euros. Because Argentina are like the England of South America, in that all of the other countries hate them and decide to support whichever team plays against them. Of course, like always, it was a penalty shootout that saw England lose. Yes! Boom!
It's another brilliant penalty.
Yeah! Boom! I wonder why you did that. Well, some of a certain type of people have a theory as to why he did that. Now it's about to become clear what type of people. The theory goes that he hesitated and then missed that penalty because his skin is a different colour. So obviously it's complete rubbish, but apparently it's a popular theory because the next morning Marcus Rashford woke up to find his inbox totally inundated with racial abuse. Then overnight it apparently no longer mattered that Marcus Rashford had led a campaign in 2020 to ensure free school meals to children from low-income families, thereby helping to feed 1.7 million children. You're now the most hated man in the country because you kicked a ball wrong. So then this mural that was painted to honour Marcus Rashford's work was vandalised with obscenities. And of course Jadon Sancho and Bukayo Saka. What's going on there? Swap shirts after the match. I've been planning that joke for weeks. We're also targeted with vulgar acts of racial abuse. It might be worth mentioning that Bukayo Saka is only 19 years old. 19 years old. When I was 19 years old, I think I still watched CBeebies. The bad behaviour wasn't limited to the aftermath of that final though. England fans would famously boo at the anti-racism gesture of taking the knee pre-kickoff. It only takes a few seconds. They're not going to have kickoff 8 seconds earlier because they didn't take the knee. Booing through the opposing country's national anthem, fans without tickets storming the turnstiles at the final, attacks on Italy supporters and stewards.
Ian St John was at the match with his family. Their memories the morning after of violence as well as defeat.
The second we got out the car, there was pandemonium outside. You know, there was guys sort of urinating in the street, defacing property, swearing, abusing people, glass bottles flying. Over 900 football-related acts of violence were reported. And away from Wembley, the hooliganism continued in the streets. England are supposed to be hosting the World Cup in 2030. Probably not going to happen now, though. On a more positive note, a large number of fans made sure to condemn that behaviour, and that mural of Marcus Rashford was covered in messages of support and thanks. The artwork was also restored. Thankfully, they got the original artist to come back and do it, and not the amateur painting restorers that revive works by the old masters. On the 19th of July, the UK government declared that the pandemic was over by announcing that all restrictions would be lifted everywhere, unless you were on a bus.
Groups of any size can now meet inside and outdoors. Guidance to work from home has been scrapped and face coverings are no longer required by law, though people will still be encouraged to wear them in shops and on public transport.
The moment they've been waiting for over a year.
Thousands of people teleported abruptly into clubs all over the country for the countdown to their midnight openings, so to avoid breaking the rules while it was still the 18th of July. Only most of the people teleported outside and couldn't get in because all of the clubs were full. The restrictions have been lifted now because all of the politicians have had their vaccines. In fact, the only people left to be vaccinated now, other than people who have received the vaccine, are people under 25, who don't work in key jobs. So the government decided that they can just let all of those people die because it would appear that they aren't as important. Freedom Day, as it's been coined, took place shortly after the UK got a new health secretary, Sajid Javid, replacing Matt Hancock after last month's scandal when he had an affair and got with his aide. Only 2 days before Freedom Day, Sajid Javid announced that he'd caught coronavirus, in spite of being fully vaccinated. If I'm honest though, it's just nice to see people out enjoying themselves again, knowing that all of the restrictions are finally over. At least until the next lockdown in a few weeks' time. Meanwhile, anti-lockdown protests, which turned violent, were taking place over in Paris and in Sydney,
venting their frustration at the state's lockdown.
And in London. London? I thought London was in the UK. Well, do all of those people know? And now it's time to talk about the biggest sporting event of the year. Tragically cancelled last year, we could finally witness an event of grand scale in which people come together after intensive training to prove just what the human body is capable of. An inspiring event in which records are broken, where athletes show us that they can run, jump and throw faster and farther than we ever thought possible. School Sports Day. I realise that this is more of a local thing, since everywhere else in the world the schools have already closed for the summer, apart from in the southern hemisphere, where it isn't even summer. So if schools have already broken up for summer where you are, you could just pretend that this is an old video from last month, or the month before that. Actually, I'm pretty sure a few schools still cancelled their school sports days anyway. I don't have any footage to show of school sports day because my editor, Tony, isn't allowed to go near any schools with his camera. But as far as I could see, the parents were also forbidden from attending this year, which is okay because they all just gathered together to watch the Olympics instead, so they didn't miss out on any potential disease spreading. The opening ceremony for the Olympics was a spectacular event, as you can clearly see from this footage, which I'm allowed to use and not get blocked by YouTube, just like they did last month with my coverage of the Euro 2020 opening ceremony. The media here were quite excited about the gold medal that Great Britain received in synchronised diving, and Tom Daley was all over the TV, only they weren't as good at synchronised being interviewed, because all of the media attention was on Tom Daley and not his teammate, who nobody remembers the name of, because Tom Daley was in the last Olympics, and we don't like new stuff.
Finally have this gold medal around my neck after so many... I mean, I've been diving now for 20 years, and this is my 4th Olympic Games.
Sir, can you get out of the shot? We're trying to talk to the Olympic champion. Can we fix this in the edit?
I'm in the best shape physically, mentally, and... I wanted to win an Olympic
gold medal. The name plaques are wrong.
My whole life.
Lee Matty, who's that? This gentleman on the right has Tom Daley's name plaque. Interestingly, Tom Daley didn't deliver the better performance of the two. Actually, his teammate, Matty Lee, did a very similar performance to Tom Daley. In fact, the judges thought they were more similar to one another than anyone else competing, so much that they got a medal for it. Because that's what synchronised diving is. I'm a bit disappointed the pool doesn't have a water slide. You can do an Olympic event out of water slides. The Winter Olympics have one. It makes more sense than any of the other events that have judges, like dressage or skateboarding. I haven't seen this much skateboarding since Tony Hawk's Pro Skater on the PlayStation. They're not proper sports. Proper sports are the ones with the running and the jumping and the throwing. It would be good if they did bring judges in for those though. Like, they could make the runners have this novelty gimmick and they could come out with their crew in silly costumes and do a dance to impress the judges. It would be much more like my favourite sport, Red Bull soapbox racing. Just look at it. It's magnificent. Red Bull soapbox racing. A fine sport. Come on guys, make this an Olympic event.
Did the kicker, they couldn't do the ramp, look at this! Boom! The kicker, the first reverse soapbox, chicane. That's astonishing, 34.64 in reverse. Oh, it's going, it's gone! Oh, look at that! Oh my word! Over the kicker, oh, it's flipped it over the kicker and then lands on the roof.
The Great Wall of China, Athens, the Grand Canyon, Machu Picchu, the Taj Mahal, Liverpool. were all listed among UNESCO's World Heritage Sites until July at a UNESCO meeting in China, where it was agreed that Liverpool would be stripped of its World Heritage status. They just don't get Freddie Starr in China. Let's see how people are enjoying the summer closer to where I live. Okay, I think that's enough of July.